Okay, Algebra 2, this is the quiz we just recently took on quadratic functions. So if you did not perform on this like you need to, then you really need to go through this quiz. I'm working through the answers here. You can work it on your own or look at specific problems that you need help with. The first one, this is subtracting two complex numbers. If you FOILed this, you were multiplying them. We need to do what was asked here, which is subtract. So this is 2 minus 3i, and you distribute that minus sign, minus 1 plus 5i. So this is 5i minus 3i plus 2 minus 1. So this is 2i plus 1. So I just behaves like a variable in algebraic manipulation here. Now is our multiplication. You multiply the first two terms together, 2 times 4. You multiply the outside terms together. You multiply the inside terms together. And you multiply the last terms together. You do all of that, you get 8 minus 6i plus 12i minus 9i squared. So this is 8 plus 6i minus 9 times negative 1. This is 8 plus 6i plus 9. This is 17 plus 6i. And the next one, the way we do division is we have to multiply by the complex conjugate. So the conjugate of 2 minus I is 2 plus I. When you multiply on the top, you're going to get 10I plus 5I squared. On the bottom, when you FOIL this, you're going to get 4 plus 2I minus 2I, and then those last terms minus I squared. And then all the I squareds are going to be replaced with negative 1. So this is 10I plus 5 times negative 1. On the bottom, you have 4 minus negative 1. So this is negative 5 plus 10I over 5, which is negative 5 over 5 plus 10I over 5. This final answer is minus 1 plus 2I. Square root of negative 12. This is I times the square root of 12. What is 12? So this is I times the square root of 4 times 3. The square root of 4 is 2. So this is 2I square root of 3. Or you could write it, square root of 3 times 2I, either way. I to the 7th. The way we do this is we divide 4 into 7. We'll go in there one time. The remainder is 3. So this answer is I cubed, which is I squared times I, which is negative 1 times I, which is just negative I. Negative 7 over the square root of negative 49. This is negative 7 over the square root of negative 49 is 7I. Well, this is negative 1 over I. In order to get this in the standard form, multiply by I over I. You get negative I over I squared, which is negative I over negative 1, which is simply I. Okay, this parabola will open up. Its axis of symmetry, well, first of all, let me look at its x-intercepts. The x-intercepts are 1, 0, and negative 3, 0. The vertex, the axis of symmetry, if this is in the form y equal a, x minus p, x minus q, we know the axis of symmetry is just p plus q over 2. So in this case, this is going to be 1 plus negative 3 over 2, which is negative 1. So it's x equal negative 1. There is no other way to write that. That's the equation of the axis of symmetry, x equal -1. So the axis of symmetry is a line that goes right here. The vertex will be on that line. Its x-coordinate is -1. So I just need to substitute x equal -1 into that original equation. So y is equal to 2. -1 minus 1, -1 plus 3. So this is 2 times -2 times 2. That is -8. So the only way to write the vertex is it is the point -1, -8. So that is the point that you see right here. The y-intercept, this is what you get when x is equal to 0. When x is equal to 0, we get y is equal to -1 times 3, excuse me, there's a 2 in front of all that, 2 times -1 times 3, which is -6. The y-intercept is the point 0 minus 6. That is the only way to write that point. Well, I look at it now, there has to be a matching point on the other side of this line, and I just need 2 more points to have my 5 exact points. You can substitute x equal 1 in that equation, and you'll get y is equal to 2. 1 minus 1, 1 plus 3, this is going to be 0. So this point right here, and that gives me a matching point right here. So I know enough now to graph this guy. What is the domain of this function? -infinity to infinity. The range, the first y value you see is at -8. So the range is from -8 to infinity. This parabola will open down. It is given to us in vertex form. That means I can look at it and tell you the vertex is the point -4, 7. -4, 7. There's my vertex. Okay. Equation of the axis of symmetry. That's x equal -4. Now I just need points that are going to match this. Okay. So I can substitute values, or I know from the behavior of the graph that it's going to be this. Let's just substitute those points. You've got x, negative x plus 4 squared plus 7. So when you substitute in a -3, this is going to give you 1 squared plus 7, so -3, 6. That's the point that I just graphed. Let's substitute a -2 in here, and I get negative. That's going to be 2 squared plus 7. That's 7 minus 4, or 3. So I'm going to get this point right, right here. I did not ask for the y-intercept. The y-intercept, if I plugged in x equals 0, that's 7 minus 16. So that's going to be -9. So the y-intercept is at -9 all the way down here. And so I've got a matching point right here. Right there, sorry. So I know enough to graph this guy at this point, so it goes like this. Domain is -infinity to infinity. The range is from -infinity all the way up to the y-coordinate in that vertex, which is a 7. Now it said in problem 8, we graph the parabola, give the exact value of the x-intercepts. And I think, is that correct? No, there's a typo there. It was a +4. So the value of the x-intercepts is what you get when you set y equal to 0. So it will be 0 is equal to negative x plus 4 squared plus 7. This means that x plus 4 squared is equal to 7. You take the square root of both sides of this equation. That will give me x plus 4 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 7. X is equal to minus 4 plus or minus the square root of 7. Your x-intercepts are points. One of those points is negative 4 plus the square root of 7, and the y-coordinate is 0. The other of those points is negative 4 minus the square root of 7, and there we go. That is the only way to write x-intercepts. They have an x-coordinate and a y-coordinate. Solve the inequality. This is a graph that's going to open upward. It's going to be drawn with a solid line. The vertex is going to be at 2, 5. X equal 2 is the axis of symmetry. The y-intercept, when you set x equal to 0, you're going to get y is equal to negative of negative 2 squared plus 5. So that's 5 minus 4, which is 1. So the y-intercept is the point 0, 1. So let's graph what we know. 2, 5 is right here. And then we've got the point 0, 1, which is right here. I just need a couple of other points. Let's substitute a 1 into this equation. So when x is equal to 1, y is negative 1 minus 2 squared plus 5. So that is going to be 5 minus 1, which is 4. So the point 1, 4 is on the graph. So 1, 4, and there's a matching point right here. And now we graph this guy. Now I need to know where to shade. So in order to shade this, let's try a point 0, 0, which is right there, and see if it fits the inequality. So if you plug in a 0, 0 into that equation, you're going to get 0 greater than or equal to minus negative 2 squared plus 5. 0 is greater than or equal to 5 minus 4, which is 1. That is not true. So 0, 0 is not part of my solution. So I shade the area that does not contain 0, 0. And that would be the solution there. Rationalize the denominator and simplify. You rationalize the denominator by multiplying by the square root of 6 over the square root of 6. This gives you 2 square root of 6. When you multiply the square root of 6 by the square root of 6, you get 6. This answer is the square root of 6 over 3. Looking at this inequality, this is something that opens down. The x-intercepts are going to be at negative 1, 0, negative 3, 0. The axis of symmetry is going to be x equal negative 1 plus negative 3 over 2, which is going to be negative 2. So at this point, I have x-intercepts at negative 1 and negative 3. I have the axis of symmetry is at negative 2. The y-intercept, when you set x equal to 0, you're going to get y is equal to negative 2. So the point 0 minus 6 is right there. And so I'll have a matching point right over here. You find the vertex by plugging in negative 2. So when y is equal to negative 2, negative 2 plus 1, negative 2 plus 3. So y is equal to negative 2, negative 1, positive 1, y is equal to 2. So the vertex is the point negative 2, 2, which is right here. I can tell by this is going to be a dotted line. So if I draw this with a dotted curve, I'm going to try to draw the curve and then erase some of it. So I can just erase pieces to get my dotted line. Now, where do I shade in this guy? So when x is equal to 0, you got -6 right there. So ask yourself, if you test the point 0, 0, is 0 less than -6? That's what you get when you plug in a 0. So is 0 less than -6? No. So the origin is not part of the solution here. So that means this is going to be my solution shading inside that parabola. Solve by factoring. Guys, this factoring will be with us a long time in this course. There are people who had no idea what to do here, okay? We spent 2 days on this. I'm not saying it's easy, but we do have methods to attack this problem. This boils down to, can you find two numbers that multiply to -35 and add to -2? Well, the only factors of 35 are 1 and 35 and 5 and 7. The only way to combine those numbers and get a -2 is if you had a -7 and a +5. This is x minus 7, x plus 5 equals 0. Set each factor equal to 0. And those are your two solutions. Next guy, I'm looking for numbers that multiply to 10 times -2. So they need to multiply to -20. And they need to add to -1. So the only factors of 20 are 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. The only way to combine those and get a -1 is with a -5 and a +4. You use those numbers to rewrite this problem as 10x squared minus 5x plus 4x minus 2 equals 0. All you're doing is writing that minus x as minus 5x plus 4x, but you're guaranteed that this will factor by grouping. Factor out a 5x, and you're left with 2x minus 1. Copy down this plus sign, and now I can factor out a 2, and I'm left with 2x minus 1 equals 0. So this tells you that 5x plus 2 times 2x minus 1 equals 0. X is equal to minus 2/5 or 1/2 when you set each of those factors equal to 0. The bonus, had a few people get this right, you should gravitate toward I squared is -1. So let's just write down everything I know. So I squared is -1. What's -4 times -1? Well, that's going to be +4. So -I, the square root of -I to the 4th. Okay. I to the 4th is 1. So this is -I, the square root of -1. By definition, the square root of -1 is I. So this is -I times I, which is negative of I squared. I squared is -1. So this is negative of -1. Answer is 1.